Welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Resilient Experience. This episode is brought to you by Eichling Med Spa, the ultimate destination for those pursuing peak performance and optimal health and wellness. Eichling Med Spa offers popular services including light stim, red light therapy, vitamin injections, functional health assessments, custom IV therapy, rejuvenating facials, dermaplane, and much more. Whether you are an athlete looking to improve performance and recovery, or someone who just wants to improve their overall health and well-being, Eichling Med Spa has a solution for you. I've been a proud customer of Eichling Med Spa for over a year, and it's so much more than just your average med spa. It's been absolutely vital to my overall health and wellness and has completely leveled up my performance as well. Visit www.eichlingmedspa.com and book your appointment today. Make sure to tell them that Bree sent you to receive 20% off of your first IV therapy. Located in New Melle, Missouri, Eichling Med Spa is your one-stop shop for your health and wellness needs. Today, we have a very special guest. We have a professional MMA fighter based right here in Missouri. He carries a professional record of 11-4. He's fought on some of the biggest stages in MMA, including the UFC. He has an upcoming fight March 1st in Nemesis Fighting Alliance, and he's looking to improve his 3-fight win streak to 4. So I'm very excited for that fight, and I'm very excited to talk to him and learn more about his past and his martial arts career and everything that has gotten him to this point. So let's go ahead and bring on Dakota Bush. You're training at ATT right now down in Florida, right?
Correct. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you. Was that Dustin Poirier you posted with earlier? Training with him?
Yeah.
Nice.
Me and Dustin and Mike had a little one-on-one, like grappling, just drilling basically. A little live, but mostly drilling today. Mike just oversees it and, throws little tidbits and, what he wants us to work on. Like for Dustin's opponent, I'm kind of similar to who Dustin's fighting. So just I've gotten a lot of work with Dustin since I've been here. Him, Gamrot, Grant, just room full of killers.
Yeah, no kidding. I know, I always joke about like half the top 15 at lightweight trains at ATT. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, you got Grant, Armin, Gamrot, Dustin, Moicano, Thiago Moises, Neto, Chris Duncan. There's just a plethora of 55ers here.
Yeah. When did you start doing your camps down there?
I think it was last January, end of December to January, so about a year now.
Okay, so it's relatively new for you. How do you like training down there versus here?
I love it. It's just the push, the bodies, the mindset more than anything, I don't have to show up to the gym and wonder, like looking around the room, like, hopefully so-and-so shows up today. Otherwise, it's going to be a light day for me. Here, it's like you're swimming with the sharks every single day. So it's super hard not to progress at a rapid rate here,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, ATT's been known for so long for just having elite level training and obviously has produced so many champions, not only in the UFC, but also in other organizations. So that's gotta be a huge help for you, especially, with, I mean, I know you were in the UFC before and then, you've been on a winning streak since. Is that kind of your goal, is to get back to the UFC as soon as possible?
Yeah, 100%. That's, if it wasn't, I wouldn't be doing this no more.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that were in my situation, that made it to the UFC, had a little skid, got cut, they wouldn't be doing the things I'm doing. They wouldn't be going to a big gym like this. They wouldn't be fighting the best guys they can fight to try to get themselves back in those situations. So that's just the issue we've been running with. Nobody wants to fight me. I'm not exaggerating, probably I had a year layoff from October to this past October, and we went through 100 guys, like,
Oh my God.
nobody, multiple UFC vets.
Wow.
And it just speaks for me. I know how well I am as far as technicality wise and skill level and everything that goes in it. Everyone that trains with me, everyone down here as well knows where I belong and where I'm supposed to be. So it's just finding someone to sign that dotted line, and we finally got someone too.
Yeah, I kind of took a look at what they've announced so far on that card. It looks like a great card so far. And I took a little bit of a look at your opponent, Austin Tweedy. It looks like he's got like some legit skills too. So I'm very excited for that. It looks like a great matchup, honestly. So to have that here in St. Louis is pretty
Yeah,
crazy. I mean, that's
yeah,
a really
like
high level
Drew
fight.
and Grande. Drew and Grande posted that the other day. Like that, this is the highest level fight St. Louis MMA's had in a good while. So
Yeah.
I'm super excited, to be able to fight back at home again. It's been a minute since I fought in St. Louis.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a good dance partner. He's heavy-handed, tough. He doesn't break. He doesn't quit. I've seen him, get the piss beat out of him where you're like, man, how did that shot not put him out? So I'm super excited for this. It's one that wakes me up every day and makes sure I'm training hard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it makes for a fun fight for the fans too, because obviously, you want to win every fight you get into, but you also want it to be fun and entertaining and competitive. So I'm definitely looking forward to it for sure. It's gonna be awesome. And I will be at that show on March 1st, so that'll be really fun. I went to the
Yeah,
last
it's
one.
right around the corner.
Yeah, it's coming up faster than I thought. I looked and I'm like, wait, it's February already. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's a
sneaking
short
up.
month, so
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. So when you're not in Florida, do you train at Wolves Den normally?
I just recently started going up there. Fridays and Sundays I go up there and spar. But usually at my home gym with Smith Pit. Been there since day one. But we're
Where's that
trying to
at?
make the transition to in Cuba.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
it's an hour from St. Louis, a little further.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there.
But
Yeah, it's a little
um,
bit of a hike, but yeah.
it is small town.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just trying to get down here to Florida,
There's
try to
quite a
get the
few
family down
fighters
here.
from that area, aren't there? Like a few fighters that have made it to the UFC from Cuba?
Yeah, me and Jake Collier were the
Yeah, that's who
ones
I'm
like
thinking of.
originally. So
Nice.
we, in a little 10 by 10, 15 by 10 shed. That's what we trained in for our whole careers, and it's I owe so much to there. It's just that style of training, the grit, we didn't have the nicest, the fanciest thing, but we had a coach who cared and was passionate and was actually knowledgeable.
Yeah.
You can have coaches that are passionate, but if they're passionate about the sport, but they don't know how to, interpret whatever they're seeing into teaching, then it's just useless knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes at small gyms you get coaches that are really really like one-on-one dedicated, and then sometimes you do get that at bigger gyms too, but it is nice having that where you have a small tight-knit team and kind of grow a bond. I think that's really cool. There's been a lot of fighters that have come up like that where they train at like somewhere where they barely have any equipment, just have some mats and like yeah, and but they're able to have a lot of
Right.
success because at the end of the day, you could have a world-class facility, but if your heart's not in it, if you're not dedicated, if you're not disciplined, then none of that stuff's going to matter. So,
That's what I tell everybody is I'm not faster, stronger, more technical. I'm not a better fighter than everyone else in the world. I just show up every single day. Whether I want to or not, I show up every day. I'm disciplined and I work harder than anyone else in the room. And it pays off. And sometimes it takes longer than others, but if you truly are passionate about something, you're gonna do whatever it takes.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that mentality. So, when did you start training martial arts?
Like MMA, actually, first fight I was 18. It was 2013, I believe. It was my first amateur fight.
Oh, wow, okay.
Um, and then I went 9-1 as an amateur, and then turned pro, and then 11-4. But so I've been at it for 11 years now, and it seems like yesterday some days, and some days it feels like it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's weird, like when you go to gyms and people are like looking at you as like the vet, like the old dog in the room. But I feel young. I feel like I'm in my prime. I'm just now hitting my stride. So
Yeah.
it's weird for people to look at me like that.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. First of all, it's so hard to get to the UFC. Like, I don't know if people realize how hard it actually is to get there. And then to stay in the UFC is even harder, especially in your division in
Way harder.
lightweight. Like, that is one of the
Right.
most cutthroat divisions out there. So it's like, man, it's tough. It's tough. Are there some things that you feel like you've been able to work on since you left the UFC, or things that you've learned from that experience that have helped you?
Yeah. It's just staying in the gym, just staying and constantly learning. Like I take something from anybody who's willing to teach me something. I pay attention, and I will. Maybe they'll teach. I'll go to a gym and they'll have 20 different things they're showing, and I'm like, I don't think that'll work for me. That'll. Oh, but I really like that. I'm gonna really work on that and try to put that in my game. And you can learn something from everyone, and that's I just try to be a sponge all the time. Since I got cut, I mean, everyone that trains with me and knows me knows that my work, my attitude, all that stayed the same, and I'm just getting better. And not like the me now would finish the me that was in the UFC. I truly believe that.
That's awesome. Yeah, because you're not that old. How old are you?
29,
Okay, yeah, I didn't think you were over 30. Well, that's
right?
perfect. Yeah, I mean, you've still got plenty of time in your career. So, yeah.
Right.
That's awesome. And it feels like with a win like this, that would definitely get you closer to getting back in the UFC, if not get you back there, I would think. Um
Right.
with that level of an opponent, I mean, and you look at some of the guys they're signing now, in just the last few years, it's changed so much with like, I feel like they're adding many more fighters to the roster than they ever have before. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
I No, yeah, you're 100% right. But I just think the contender series is kind of, as of lately, the past couple years, it's kind of hurt MMA outside the UFC because all these guys are like, well, I'll get to 4-0, 5-0, and then I'll fight on the contender series and get signed. And 90% of those guys that are getting signed are not ready. They're not
No.
ready for the UFC level guys. And you see it all the time. These contender series guys will go in and they're just
Yeah,
flat.
like Tom
They
Nolan.
just lack the experience. Right? There's so many guys,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating to see, the guys that don't deserve to be there. And then there's guys I train with that have never even had a chance, but I'm like, man, this guy's world class. And
Yeah.
some people just don't get that shot.
I know there's so many fighters I talk to and that I know that like they fought more UFC level opponents than some fighters that are in the UFC, but they never got to go to the UFC for whatever reason. It's almost like there's a lot of factors, like it's a lot of luck too involved in it, and timing is everything. Like, you have to be the right
Timing,
age at the
100%.
right time in the right division, and so there's so much more to it besides just like, oh, I'm good, I'm 5-0, let me go to the UFC. It's like, nah, it doesn't really
Right.
work like that.
Yeah. And that's one thing I am very proud of, and like knowing is, if you look back on my record as a pro, I've never fought anyone with a losing record, not once.
Yeah,
You look
I
at the
noticed that.
majority of the UFC roster, every single person in the UFC roster has fought a can or two.
Yeah.
You know, it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And I've take pride in that, knowing that I've always sought out to fight the best of the best, um, and it just, you learn from it, you grow from it, and it really sets you on a different level, knowing that, like, this guy I'm getting ready to fight, yeah, he's tough, but everyone's tough. Everyone that I've faught's tough.
Yeah.
So it doesn't intimidate me. It doesn't shy me away from going in there. It's just another guy that's standing in the way of me going where I want to go. It's really, fighting comes so easy to me, like to just go in there and do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I'm sure too with you making that transition and training at ATT now, you're getting different looks, and you are training with higher level guys. And this is something that I've heard from a lot of fighters is like, if I'm getting my ass beat in camp, like I feel so much more confident going into the fight because I know that I'm
Right.
training with high level fighters. I'm not taking easy days. I'm not going light. I'm going into this being well prepared. And even though maybe that might kind of hurt your confidence a little bit during camp, when you get into the fight, then it's like, oh, I'm good. Like I've already done this. Like we're good. So I
Right.
feel like that
And
too
that's
probably
how I
has a
look
lot
at it. You know,
to do with it.
yeah, I'd look at it like that. You know, I'm going with literally every single day. This week I've went with Gamrot and Dustin and Grant every day this week, and I'm just, look at my opponent. I'm like, yeah, he's tough. Everyone at the UFC and high level are tough. Everybody in the UFC level is tough. Um, so that doesn't, being tough doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't even. I'm tough. 99% of pro fighters should be tough. So, when I go with all these guys, I'm thinking to myself, like, what would they do to the guy I'm getting ready to fight? I'm winning rounds against these guys. It's super competitive. And then some days they just kick the shit out of me, it's just how it goes. But it's so much confidence and so relieving knowing like I'm doing everything that I possibly can. I'm controlling what I can control. And when I step in the cage, I just focus on not so much winning. Obviously, I want to win more than anything, but I just focus on having my best performance.
I think that's the right mentality for sure. Because, sometimes when fighters get like too caught up on the result, I feel like then they feel too much pressure, or they feel like, they're not enjoying the process of it. And I think that's important too, is to make sure that you're loving it. Because at the end of the day, you're doing what you love to do.
Right. Exactly. And I tell everyone that every day. I'm so blessed and lucky to get to come and train and be with the best in the world every day, and just the friendships, the people you meet, and this stuff that'll last a lifetime. That's what's super important, and um, but yeah, just competing at the high level and being around it is just so fun. It's just
Oh, I
always
bet.
chasing that wheel that you can't ever catch up to.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
so
especially you're training with
it,
two of the best
it's
grapplers in the UFC. It's crazy. Gamrot and
right.
Dawson are
Yeah,
beasts.
fun. Yeah, they're the best. They're super good dudes, super good training partners. Just fun to be around. Fun. I mean, if we could put a camera in the room, I swear we could have pay-per-view sales just off our training round.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's important too, is to have fun with it. In anything that you do really is to, make sure you don't fall out of love with it as well. Because I feel like that's easy to
Right.
do too. Like you start doing something you love, and then it becomes too much focused on the money and the winning and the results, and then you lose the passion. So it's good. I think it's good to keep that mentality and keep it fun for sure. I mean, it's not fun getting beat up,
Right.
but
You have to. I mean, it's how you look at it. It's perspective. If you know it's for the right reasons, getting beat up in the gym to get better.
yeah,
Yeah, but no one wants to get beat up in the fight.
exactly. Yeah, that is correct. Well, that's awesome. So I think that will probably definitely prepare you very well for this fight. I mean, I was kind of surprised. You guys have pretty much, I think, like identical records too. Is he 11-4?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You hardly
Yeah.
ever
It
see
is.
that.
It's pretty cool knowing that he's a game
Yeah.
opponent, and he's gonna be ready. He's gonna bring the fight. He's professional. Um, but if you really look at it and break the fight down, not like skill or anything, I'm on a 3-fight winning streak. He's on a 2-fight losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
He
Yeah.
has everything to gain and nothing to lose.
Right.
Vice versa. Like the call could be, I could get a call tomorrow and be signed.
Yeah.
We've had 3 or 4 fights that just didn't line up. Like Jim Miller, they offered me that last summer on a day notice, and I couldn't make the 55 in a day. Just
Oh
not
wow.
a chance. Um, and a couple
Yeah.
others, just didn't timing, everything just didn't line up. So I'm right there. So I didn't have to take this fight. Like I could have just sat and waited, kept training if I wanted, but I'm trying to prove like, hey, I'm still hungry. I'm still working. I want this experience over tough guys just so when I get back in the UFC, I'm just that much more comfortable.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the right move. I think it's good too to stay active. I've noticed that sometimes when fighters, I mean, we just saw Colby. He took time off, and sometimes it can be a good thing to take time off. In his case, it didn't look like it was, but sometimes it happens, and so I think staying active, especially before you even try to go back to the UFC, I think is good because then, like you said, you'll have that experience and you're not going to have the ring rust because the last place you want to have ring rust is in the UFC.
Right, right. Yeah, and that's like you said with Colby. At the elite level, at the top 1% of the sport, every day that you're not in the gym and your opponent is, it's like we say, stacking papers. If I have a stack of
Yep.
250 pieces of computer paper and you got 300 pieces, from a distance, they're going to look about the same size. You're not going to tell that big of a difference. But each sheet of paper is that much more experience and drilling and live hours, everything. Each sheet you can add. That's all you need. The high level. If I have 450 sheets and he's got 452, those little tiny details matter at the high level.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. I noticed that you have you have a daughter and a son? You have two kids?
Mhm. Yep.
Nice. How do you I'm always curious with fighters cuz some fighters, they're kind of on their own, a lone wolf, and then there's a lot of fighters that have a family at home. How do you balance that with fighting, and how does their support help you to kind of get where you are?
Yeah, that's the hardest part of training camps is
Yeah.
being away from the family, not getting to come home to your kids and your wife every day when that's like your daily routine, training in the morning, take the kids to school, do whatever during the day, come home, pick the kids up, training, just getting that routine and then it gets thrown off
Yeah.
and not seeing them that's hard.
Oh, I bet.
Especially when they're calling, and Daddy, when are you coming home? And those are the days
Oh.
that make it hard to train, but you
Yeah.
know the purpose. I say this all the time. Um, how can I tell my kids, when they're older, hey, chase your dreams, go follow your dreams, if I never did it?
100%. Yeah.
So the just huge support. They understand it. Both of my kids have. That's all they know. They've been in the gym their whole lives. They understand it. They get it. Some days I'm sure they hate it because that's what our lives are. Um, but my wife very supportive. Um, just allow me to be down here and hold the fort down while I'm gone.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's rough, and like I said, they sacrifice probably more than I do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know that, like I said, I mean, there's a lot of fighters that have that, going on, and um, I always just wonder, I'm like, how do you guys deal with that? Because I feel like that to me would be really difficult to just like be away, and not only that, but also like even if you're at home, I feel like it's still hard because you come home from training, you gotta take care of your kids, and you gotta take care of the family, be there for them, and sometimes when you're exhausted, physically exhausted, it's hard to like really be present, and you're just like, I just want to go to
Right,
bed.
right,
But
and
that's
that's
awesome that you have
probably
a
my
supportive
biggest
family.
like default.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, couldn't ask for a better group behind me, and
Yeah.
Like I said, that's my biggest default at home is worn out, training camp, coming home, trying to get the kids ready for bed, getting them fed and baths, and you're like, man, I just want to shower and eat and go to bed.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. So how old are your kids?
8 and 4.
Okay. So you've been fighting before they were born. Okay. So that, yeah, so that really
Yeah.
is all they know.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
That's
awesome.
it. They've been in the gym since they could walk.
Yeah. Do you feel like when you had kids it gave you more motivation in fighting than it did before?
You know, my motivation for fighting isn't, really driven from anything else except for me, for myself. Like,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to lose or do anything to jeopardize my family's like
Of course.
their sacrifices. Like that means so much to me. Like they're giving up the time with me and sacrificing so much, and that I'm not going to disrespect that and not give it 100% every day and give my best effort. But like the driving factor in me is, like I said, it's not anyone else. I could care less if two people were at the venue watching me fight. I fight for, just I can't explain it. It's like a ball of fire that's inside you that you got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, and I feel like too that is the best motivation. Um is to just do what makes you happy, because at the end of the day if you're happy, then you can make other people happy. If you're miserable, then
Right.
everybody around you is probably going to be miserable too. So
My wife gets so mad at me because I tell her all the time, like, it's not my job to make you happy. You have to be happy on your own, and then
yeah.
we will mutually be happy.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean it is true though, like it's you have to find your own happiness, and it's hard, because even things that make
Hmm.
you happy, some days they just don't. Some days you wake up and nothing you do will make you happy. Like it's just
Right.
not your day. But when you can
It's
find
the
things,
happiness.
yeah, when you can find things that you do every day that over time, can help you build that happiness and build a good relationship with yourself too. I think that's key, I think. For sure.
It's happiness is a feeling. Feelings
Yeah,
come and go.
exactly.
We want to feel happy more than we don't. What doesn't
Right.
fade or tread is purpose. If you find your purpose of what your whatever it may be, you will do whatever it takes to fulfill that or chase whatever you're doing. Like I talk to people all the time. If I wanted to be I was truly passionate about cutting grass, I'd be the best grass cutter in Missouri, hands down. It's just you have to have a purpose and a driven mindset to whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. That's facts for sure. Yeah, purpose is definitely, yeah, I mean that's the goal, is to have purpose, because like you said, happiness fades, it comes and goes, and yeah, we're not supposed to be happy all the time. That would be crazy. Like
Right,
that people would put us in a
right,
hospital if we were happy all the time. Be like, "What's wrong with you?" but if you have purpose, then it makes it easier to deal with the times that you're not. I feel like, because then you're
right,
like, okay, well, at the end of the day, I'm gonna survive today. I'm gonna get through it, as long as I got my end goal and I'm chasing that goal. Then I'm good. I can survive this bad day, this rainy day, whatever it is, for sure.
right.
That's funny. Getting philosophical here, but I love it. It's awesome. Fighters are always like that. That's why I love talking to fighters, because fighters have such a different mentality, I feel like, than a lot of people. And it's very easy to be motivated by fighters. Like, just, because you're doing something that, first of all, most people don't ever get to do or have any desire to do. And you're doing something that if you can make it, then it changes your life completely. And it's not even just about like obviously everybody wants to make money, and of course all those things are important. You need money to survive, but to me I feel like for a lot of fighters it's more about the legacy they can leave, and doing something bigger, like you said, like of having a purpose. And I think that that's one thing that I wish more people understood about this sport is like it's not just two guys going in there and beating the crap out of each other. It's so much more than that. Like it's and when you really like learn more about fighters and you learn more about like all the work that goes into it as well, you have so much more respect for it, and it's so much different than any other sport. Like it's not even close. And that's why I don't even watch other sports, cuz it just doesn't give me that
Right.
feeling.
It's fighting such a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Like the people that get it, that understand like what it takes, the sacrificing, the just losing. Like, yeah, go lose football with your teammates and point the fingers at whoever else. But when you're one on one, there's no one to point the fingers, no one to blame. Losing so much harder, and um, it just so mentally, it's the hardest thing to do on earth.
Oh
Is
yeah.
just walk to that cage is the hardest thing to do on earth, and you know the people on the other side of the spectrum that sit around. Why is he kicking him in the leg? If he kicked me in the leg, I just punch him in the face. And just the ignorance to the sport and the gap that they don't realize. And that's why I love seeing Sean Strickland beating up these guys that think
Oh yeah.
there's no gap. Fighting's fighting.
That was satisfying. Yeah. That was great. I mean, I will give it to Sneeko. He did not fall down, but I think part
Yeah,
of that
but
is
they
because he
also
was right
were,
against the cage. So
and they were throwing in the towel, stopping it. We were watching that today.
yeah,
That's funny. Me and Grant were, and I'm like, man, they shouldn't have stopped it. They should just let it go. These people need to realize there's a gap.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I'm actually glad. And like, there's fans, of course, that will hear fighters say things and like, oh my god, they're so salty. Like Joe Pyfer. I talked to him yesterday,
Right.
which was awesome. But he was talking in his media day about how somebody said he was like salty, had a bad attitude. But like, I'm looking at it and I see all the things people say about MMA and about fighters, people that don't know anything. And so I get it. I'm like, I get why he's salty. I get why maybe doesn't
Right.
have the best attitude with all these media people. I'm like, I get it, because I would be the same way. I would be the exact same, probably worse. I'm like, I would be shutting these people down. Like, I would be so fed up with it. And it's like, it's crazy. It's crazy
Right.
what people can get away with on the internet with saying.
It and no consequences. And
None.
when I was in Vegas for Grant's last fight and Joe fought on the same card, Joe has a sponsor out in Vegas that has like exotic sport cars that while
Yeah.
Joe's in Vegas, they'll let him have like a Lamborghini or Ferrari. Well, we were at the PI cutting weight, and me and Grant were walking outside, and Joe was leaving as well. And we're talking, and he's like, "Is that your Lambo?" And he's like, "Oh no, it's sponsored. Blah blah. You guys want to drive it?" And just let Grant hop in and drive it. He's just a good dude, and
What a
that's
cool
how I see
dude.
people.
That's awesome.
You know,
Yeah, it was funny because like I interviewed him yesterday. Wasn't a very long interview. It was like 15 minutes or something like that. And I'm like, he's a cool dude. I'm like, he's a nice guy. I'm like, I don't know what
right,
all these people are talking about. I'm like, maybe he was just asking dumb questions. I don't know. I'm like,
right,
like maybe you just came at him the wrong way. I mean, but that's the thing is like sometimes people will have a certain perception of somebody because of the way they treat them. And so, somebody will be disrespectful or ignorant to a person, and then when they're treated with a little, disrespect or a little frustration, then they're like, oh, that guy's an asshole. And it's like, maybe you were,
Right.
like maybe you were the asshole in the
Yeah,
situation.
the media is definitely, there's good and bad. It's like everything, there's the good and the bad and the in between, and
Yeah.
it's just how you can deal with it, and that's what's good about fighters, and that's what I love about the UFC is Dana doesn't censor anything. Like you can say, do whatever you want. You have a freedom of speech,
Yeah.
and the world does not like that
No.
right now. They don't like, and that's why the UFC gets a lot of slack and fighters do, because they say what everyone else is thinking but scared to say.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. A lot of people don't want to be called out, but I think it's good. I mean, even sometimes when people call me out on things, like I appreciate it because I'm like, at first I'm like, whoa, I'm like, what the
Right.
heck? But then I think about it and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I could improve on that, or maybe I could do something, to change that, or whatever it is. I feel like sometimes, like, I have friends that call me out on things all the time, and I'm so grateful to have friends like that, because when you have friends that just go along with whatever you do, and they're
Right.
just a yes man, like, or a yes woman, like, and they just, yeah, everything you're doing is great, then you don't know, and you go into the real world and you don't know that something's wrong with you, like you're doing something
Right.
crazy, like you're doing something wrong. And so you have to have friends that like keep you in check, and I think that's important. And but I think that's what a lot of people don't like these days, is they don't want to be kept in check, and of course nobody does, but you need to, because otherwise,
Right.
when you get into the real world and then you get into a situation, you might not handle it the best because you're not prepared for it. So
Right. And I only care about a handful of people that will say, "Hey, dude, you need to do this," or "Hey, you're slacking
yeah.
here. You need." Other than that, outside the circle of people that I trust, that I know care about my well-being. Other than that, whatever people say, just I'm used to it. Fighters get the worst speculation of anything.
Oh my gosh, I
After
know.
any fight you get, the media, people on social media, it's it's crazy. Every man thinks they can fight, and every woman thinks thinks they're a good mother. That's Grant Dawson told me that one time, and it's 100% true.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I'm glad that we're finally like settling some of this stuff with these influencers talking trash, and like, I mean, I get it. They're trying to entertain people or whatever they even do. I don't even know. I'm like, I don't know what these people do. They have
Right.
a podcast? Like, what is this? But whatever they're doing, I guess they're trying to make people laugh, entertain people, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, this is not the sport to do that with. Like, this is not it. Like, this is not a game.
Right.
So you don't play it like a game, because it's not. Because you're gonna that exactly what happened to Sneeko is gonna happen to you. So
Right. That's Man, it's so frustrating. And then you get on the other side of it, and you're like, why am I even letting these people bother me?
I
And
know.
I've always battled that back and forth. Like, do
Yeah.
I say something? Do I just let it go? And then it's like the reason I get so upset is I think of all the years of training, and sacrifices,
Yeah.
and just day in and day out for someone to think that their uncle watched 12 Bruce Lee videos, and so they know how to fight, in 2 months. It's just the disrespect is what frustrates me.
Oh God, that's funny. Yeah, I think a lot of these people, they've never trained at a gym, and that's something that I pride myself on, is like I try to train as much as I possibly can, in even like, and maybe one day I'll compete. I don't know. I go back and forth with that idea so many times in my head, but but even if I'm not competing, it does make me better at this. You know, it makes me better at interviewing. It makes
Right.
me better at talking to fighters, and not only with like, oh, coming up with questions and stuff like that, or like, you know, breaking down the fights, but just appreciating little things, you know, that most people would overlook. And, you know, just like I did a whole rant on the Sean Strickland fight, because I saw all these people were saying like, oh, Sean didn't do anything. He didn't throw any punch. All he did was throw jab. And so then I was like, okay, well, here's actually what he did, you know, and it seems very simple to, you know, somebody who's never trained or sparred before, but it's actually very, very advanced, a lot of the things that he's doing in there. And it takes a long time to perfect that. And so that's something that, like, I feel like is important. And you see it with other sports, you know, with football, baseball, hockey, all these other sports. Like, they talk about those details. They talk about the little things. And I think that's what we need more of in MMA media, too, is to talk about those little details and things that maybe people would overlook, because it gives you a stronger appreciation of a fighter's performance. And also it gives you a stronger appreciation just for, even if a fighter loses, like, oh, well, you know, they had a really great moment here, and they had, you know, they got up from all these takedowns even though they lost. Like, there's so much that can still be appreciated in this sport if you know, like, kind of, I guess, what it takes. Not necessarily that you have to go and train for 12 years, but,
Right.
you know, even just educating yourself a little bit. Like, I tell people too, I'm like, if you want to learn about this sport, like, listen to Joe Rogan when he interviews fighters. Like, you'll learn so much about it, and you'll learn so much about what goes into it as well, because, you know, you're hearing like their childhood, and you're hearing like how they got to this point. And I think it's important. I think it gives you a different appreciation. I think, you know, I hope that we get more of that as more people get into the sport. But I think it might take an effort to educate the fans, for sure.
Right. And but that's why people love it. You know, people love
Yeah.
violence. Everyone wants to watch it. It was like
Oh,
in
yeah.
grade school, you're walking down the hallway and a fight breaks out. Everyone circles around. No one walks and turns away and walks the other way.
Right.
Everyone circles around to watch. People, it's just human nature.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, it's good knowing that there's people that are doing the right things. You know, going and training, um, listening actually, and paying attention to the finer details of, like, the people don't realize, like, the littlest minuscule details can win fights. And at a high level, it's I was watching. I can't remember who said it. I'm stealing it, but I can't give them their. I'm plagiarizing it. They said high IQ, like when you're taking an IQ test, it's off of analyzing data and recognizing patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what fighting is. At a high level, you're analyzing data at a high speed, and you're recognizing patterns of, like, okay, every time he jabs, he's flipping his head to the right. So now I'm gonna throw a straight right with the same side head kick. You know, it's at a high pace of IQ. You know, it's
Yeah.
very very. It's not this Neanderthal act of just beating on each other. It's
Right.
literally the minor details could knock him out or knock you out.
Oh, yeah. And even like, I mean, obviously when you get to a high level, when you get to the UFC, like, there's so much more of like watching film and looking, like you said, looking for patterns and things like that, formulating a game plan. But even like a lot of the amateur fighters that I, you know, encounter at my gym, like, actually, I think you've trained with Logan before. Logan Jones.
Hmm.
He's going to be on the same
Yeah.
card. Yeah.
Right.
So like, you know, fighters like him and Kendall and Austin and Jesse and Corey, like, I see, like, well, I guess some of them are pros, but like the amateurs, they actually do put a lot of thought into their game plan, and they're training as if they're like already a pro. And I feel like that is one big shift too that I've noticed, is like, the amateur scene is really becoming a lot more high level than it used to be, and it's pretty cool.
It is. It 100% is. We say it all the time. Like when I was an amateur, we were training like pros. Like we were doing everything pros
Yeah.
were doing, 5 minute rounds, and not many amateurs in the area were doing that. That's why we had the success and stood out amongst the rest. But now it's like all the amateurs are doing that. Like
Yeah.
all the amateurs are low level pros. Like in the earlier days. So the sport's evolving, and the one thing I think is missing though is the amateurs are like nowadays are super technical. Like they're super good in every
Mhm.
area where you're like, wow, I thought you might be a pro. But I just feel like and this comes with experience. It's just
Mhm.
the dog, like
Yeah.
the grittiness. Like it's a little more MMA is a little more pretty and try to hit and not get hit, which is what you should be doing.
Right.
Um, but sometimes to win fights, fighting is the intangibles. On paper you're like, oh, so and so
Yep.
should beat him, but there's the things when until you get in there with another man, you don't know what's his will. You don't know what's his driving force. And like I said, you never know. That's why they always say styles make fights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you might be the A striker and I'm the B striker, but I have like a weird dip with an overhand that I'm throwing with bad intentions. So it's crazy. There's just so much that goes in this game. That's why we love it.
100%. I was just talking to Joe about that yesterday. Like, because you look at him in Jack on paper, and Jack's got over 30 pro fights, and Joe's only got 14. So it's like you look at it and it's like, wow, this is a huge difference in experience. But at the same time, like Joe's got that dog, like he's got it, and and that's, I feel like that's the hardest thing to find because it's not something that you can really teach somebody. It's just something that you kind of have innately.
Right. I think the guys my age and maybe a couple years younger, like the kids that grew up in the '90s that were, you know, before the cell phone era really took off and like the gaming.
Yeah.
Now the kids that are getting into MMA that are early 20s that grew up on the softer side of the world than kind of what we did, and
Yeah.
um, it's weird saying that. I feel like an old
I
man
know.
talking
I'm
like that, but
28, so I'm not much younger
um,
than you.
right. But it's different. Like we
Yes.
got to see like from before cell phones into like
Right.
now look at us with cell phones,
Oh my god, I know.
And I just think it's different, like as a kid I was outside playing football with the neighborhood kids and we were full on tackling each other. Kids are going home crying if you weren't tough. But the tough kids, we stayed and we were coming home bloody, clothes ripped up. I think that says a lot and the guys my age in the sport, that are they just have that dog versus the younger kids that didn't really grow up, playing outside as much or they wanted to be cool and doing video gaming and it's the fine details in this sport that play so much on the night of the fight.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that's huge. I think, yeah, your upbringing has a lot to do with it too, and I think that's why a lot of fighters that have a rough childhood end up being very successful because it does toughen you and it makes you more gritty and yeah, we see it all the time. But speaking of outside, I noticed that you are into hunting. Is that like a big hobby for you? It seems like. Yeah, that's what I
That's
figured.
that's my turkey hunting is my favorite thing to do on earth. If I'm trying to figure it out, um, but when I can figure out how to turkey hunt and make money, make content off that, if I could solely provide for my family doing that, I wouldn't fight.
That's awesome.
I love it more than anything, and I got some ideas like rolling, and we're getting some stuff lined up. Um,
Nice.
as long as no one steals my idea, they can try, I guess. But I was gonna make a YouTube show, like making just putting content out, naming it Fists and Feathers for
Oh,
turkeys,
that's awesome.
and having guys like Dustin and Grant and all these guys come up to Missouri, wherever we're at, and recording us training, working on stuff, and then going hunting and showing all that, and from fighting to hunting to putting the food on the table, eating, just make it full circle.
That'd be awesome. I love that idea. You'd be like the Cam Hanes of MMA.
Right. I love Cam Hanes
He's
too, so
awesome.
it's a big inspiration.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's got a podcast now too, and I could totally see you doing something like that, like, or even going on his show. I think that would be really interesting because I think he's had some MMA
Yeah,
people
I
on
would
there.
love that.
Cam Hanes, hit him up.
Yeah, he's got that lift, run, shoot, where
Yeah,
they come on and lift weights, run that crazy run up to the top of the mountain, holding like a boulder, and then shooting bows. Like,
yeah,
down for all that.
that's awesome. Yeah, you should definitely try to get on there because that would be really cool. That would be an awesome
Right.
collab for sure. After you win your fight, you'll have to hit him up.
Right.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I think that's really cool, and I think that's something that is important for fighters is to, like, obviously you want to pour as much energy into fighting as possible, but I think it's important too to have something else going on that, also gives you purpose, because you can't fight forever. I mean, some people can,
Right.
but not very many.
Right.
But so you have to have something that gives you purpose and keeps you motivated and keeps you going. And I know a lot of fighters too are like very ADD like me. Like, we have all different kinds of interests and hobbies that we like to kind of delve into, and and I love that. But I think that's important because, you see, like, I mean, Volkanovski was even talking about it. He's like, I don't know what to do when I'm not fighting. Like, I don't
Right.
know what to do. There's nothing
You
else.
you obsess you obsess so much about this sport, like,
Yeah.
especially when you got to fight. Like, every minute of your day, you're thinking in your back of your head. It comes to like, all right, you just thinking, picturing like shadow boxing, or thinking, man, did I do enough today? Did I give it my best effort? Just always stressing and worrying, watching film, just constantly on the brain. It's important to have that break where you can just be like, all right, fighting's not even on the forethought of my brain. I'm focusing on doing this, and that's what hunting is for me. I don't even think about fighting. Half the time, I get so mad if they schedule me a fight within the April and months of May, because that's turkey season. And like, if the UFC calls, yeah, I'll do it. But
Yeah.
if you're any other promotion, you're trying to get me to fight April or May, yeah, we're gonna have to wait until June or July.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, I feel like too they're very polar opposite kind of things, because fighting is like very fast paced and, like, you got to be like, it's very intense, and hunting is intense but in a very different way. And I've never really hunted before, so I'm just guessing here, but from what I've
Right.
noticed and what I've heard, people talk about hunting is like it's very quiet, it's very, you have to be very focused and very calm,
Right.
and fighting is like the opposite of that. It's
Right.
very interesting.
Yeah, it's like you said, there's a lot of polar opposites, and then there's the things that, like, you do well in fighting that you know that correlate to hunting, or vice versa, that it can help you with your patience and just your focus and attentiveness, at all the little nuances that just kind of bounce off each other.
Oh, absolutely. This conversation's been awesome. Really excited just to get to know you more, and obviously I'm going to be, watching you fight soon. So pretty cool to learn about, your family, your hobbies, and all that kind of stuff. And again, super excited to see you fight, and excited for that whole card. Honestly, I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm glad they're doing it at the Armory this time, right?
Yeah,
The fights.
I've never
That'd be
been
cool.
there, but I heard it's a pretty
Me
cool
neither.
place. So should
Yeah,
be
I
should be
haven't
a
been there
fun
either.
night.
I'm excited. Yeah, it should be pretty fun. Cool. Well, is there anything else you want to say before we go, or anything else that you want to mention?
Just if anyone that watches and cares about what I'm saying, is just to find your purpose. Just whatever makes you happy, find a way to do it, and you know, chase your dreams, or the regrets of not will chase you forever.
I love that. That's some heavy wisdom there.
Right?
That's awesome. Well, again, it's been super awesome talking to you. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And like I said, I will see you fight on March 1st. So very excited. And yeah, I will let you get back to your night. I'm sure you're exhausted after training with Dustin Poirier. So
Yeah, a little bit.
all right. Well, this has been fun. Again, if you need anything, let me know. I will have this out on Monday. And yeah, if you need anything, anything to help support, just let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much.